This is an open letter to the Sane Society. Here's the thing, folks. You gotta have people graduating from your higher learning centers. You gotta have them have them, force them, have them pass at least one, have beside their specialty major. They should major in, before giving them their diploma, you should force them to learn one other culture language beside their own. You see, here's the thing. Most of the You have a misunderstanding between East and West right now. For example, on your planet, there is a misunderstanding between East and West. Okay, it seems. West, I've noticed, has many misunderstanding with a lot of people, a lot of nations. There's a misunderstanding with the West, and there's a misunderstanding with Africa, and then the West has a misunderstanding with South America, all the Monroe Doctrine and all of that, and all the intervention in African countries and all of that, all the coups and military dictators that were supported by the West. Same thing in the Middle East, East Asia. It seems the misunderstanding is mostly coming from the West side, the Western world. White people, my pink-skinned friends. This misunderstanding seems to be coming from your side a lot. It wasn't the Vietnamese fighting in Chicago, it was the people from Chicago fighting in a place called Vietnam. If you're fighting in somebody else's neighborhood, you're not really defending anything. If you're fighting for something in somebody else's neighborhood, you're not defending anything. You're attacking. You're in an attack position because you're in their neighborhood. Anyway, that aside, that aside, here is the thing. The Western universities for the past, 100 years or so has been, couple of 100 years, has been top notch. And you have attracted a lot of Eastern brain to your Western universities, English speaking Western universities. And when these people have come, they couldn't do the studying and the testing in, for example, Yale. They couldn't do their studying and testing in Yale in their mother tongue. So they had to, wherever the fuck they came from, they had to learn English and continue with their education, but in a different language, in a different culture, in the native culture of the land they've landed in, be it the fucking British island or any of her colonies, present, present and future colonies. Here's the thing. So these people come in, do the pink skin culture, do the pink skin language. At the end of their graduation, if they have done it well, they can only graduate if they have done well studying of English, the natives' language and their culture, because you have to live between them. So when this guy from India, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Russia, Pakistan, this guy ends up graduating knowing two languages and two cultures. Where is your equivalent in the West? Do you are graduating, your graduates from Harvard and Yale and the rest of the big league and even the middle league and the lower league, whatever college graduates people in the Western Hemisphere, they don't require them to know one other culture and language thoroughly. They don't require, that's another requirement. It becomes an obligation for the foreign student, but to at the end graduate with two cultures and two languages under his or her belt, but not in case of the Western Hemisphere, because the native students can graduate in their mother tongue. Well, you can do that, but this means that let's talk about Mr. George W. Bush. With all due respect, do a president, but ex-president. But here's the thing. I know that Mr. Bush, W. Bush, didn't learn much in school. That much I know. But I do know that one thing, for example, he learned was that in all his schooling, in primary school and middle school and high school and the college, the university he went to and graduated from Yale, I think he got one thing, and that is Shakespeare is the best, top of the line. Probably had to read a couple of his poems and maybe memorize one, and plays, remember the plays and one-liners and this and that, and everybody repeats to each other those one-liners, Shakespearean one-liners, and everybody feels very educated and blah blah blah. But the reality is, these people who are falling over themselves when talking about Shakespeare, they don't speak a second language very well, or have been immersed in the culture of a different country very well. They're not that. They haven't done that part. When they have graduated with a degree, let's say in banking or economics or journalism or farming, they have graduated with a degree in this, but in their own mother tongue, with the same culture they grow up in high school. Everything is the same. And then in college, they learn more. They have English. You have to be able to speak at least one language. But they're not expected to have a second language very well, to be well read in a second language very well, and immersed in a different culture of their own also very well. That's not expected. Why not? This gives a big advantage to the foreigners who graduate from these higher learning institutions, because they're forced into learning the pink skin culture, and about their also their actors and their long dead poets and playwrights. So it comes in part of the package, but you don't have the same information. None of your students have the same information, are not required to observe the same information that this guy has observed in, let's say, London, from the natives. You haven't had any such requirements for one of your graduates to have the same of the foreign students, any of the foreign students' language and culture. The result is, I'm sorry to say, the result is Mr. Bush, starting from Mr. Bush to Mr. NPR, top dogs in NPR. Everybody is of the same idea that Shakespeare is best. I'm sorry. It basically covers the whole array of intellect and knowledge in the West, in the Western world, in the pink skin society, that they don't see any reason to require each one of their citizens to pick a different culture with a different language and have to immerse themselves, because the test will be taken from them and they have to pass that test, thorough test, on location in order to be allowed to even receive a bachelor's degree. You got to immerse your native students into somebody else's culture. All these the planet has a lot of cultures and languages. You got to require them to become proficient in one other culture and language. Period. Beside their own. That's why even you see these uh, Chinese who don't speak Chinese and Mexicans who don't speak Mexican and sort of like, and also basically if you join our tribe you should forget your language, you turn exactly the same as us, and also it's called bleach cream, you use this also to lighten your skin so you can blend better. You can do that? Salute. I think this is a problem. This is the problem. I mean, if George W. Bush had to, in order to graduate, get his bachelor's degree, or Rumsfeld, or Cheney, or Maney, or Payne, or they all had to get their, in order to get their bachelor's degree, they have to, be very, you know, have a very immersive experience in another culture and picked up their language perfect, know of their literary figures, know of their historical figures, know of this is because this is exactly what happens to the foreign students in Western universities. They already know theirs, now gotta learn a bit about these guys. That's a good idea. That's why these foreign graduates of Western higher educational system, the foreign graduates are far more intelligent, informed, make intelligent choices because they're better informed. Yes, I know you can't change intelligence supposedly, but at least they're better informed because now they know of two cultures and two languages and have absorbed information from two sources. And here's why it's important to absorb information from two sources on your planet, two cultural sources. Here's why it's very important. The importance is that it's important because goes back to the idea of I have the best penis. It's like small boys who are impressed with their own penis and and very interested. But you see, it's a very menial thing, but because it's mine, it's important. It's a very menial thing. It's a very um, socially it's unacceptable for you to be always interested in only yourself. We understand that's a very childish thing to be only interested in oneself, but this is how we are. Human beings are designed to think of themselves as center of universe. All living creatures are designed to see themselves as center of universe. That's why they all want to survive. Sort of like it's all about my survival. Fuck you. The point is this: because you're designed like this, you have a very strong bias towards yourself, and if you're very ignorant of others, you start seeing others as less than you. You start seeing others in less than you. You see what I'm saying? So, because you're interested in yourself, and if you are not forced to expand your knowledge base into a different culture, you suddenly start thinking that no, it's my penis, it must be the best, because you don't know of any other. We are not required to get a degree, to, let's say, to get a higher social status in your society. You don't require these people to get a higher social and economical status. You don't require them to know about any other culture except their own, any other language except their own. You say, yeah, we give you a bachelor's degree in this and this, with this, and you can get a job with this much a month, for this much a month, and this power and this position. You can do that. You can suddenly become a president, but you're not required to know much. You're not required to know at least the second culture and language very thoroughly. Because when you get to, you're forced to, nobody wants to. Everybody thinks their culture, their language is the best. Nothing at par. No, your lack of knowledge, your ignorance becomes a cause for war. Because, we are right. Because we got Shakespeare. This is, you all see yourself as center of universe. It is correct, yeah, because all, and all creatures see themselves as center of universe. Is all about their survival, individual survival. Yes, we know. But in order to counter that, you have to put that by forcing people to pick up on at least one different culture and language thoroughly, to know their historical figures. They already know their own they should know their own historical figures. They should know another culture's historical figures by their choice in order to graduate, get even a bachelor's degree. You don't require that. All your foreign students get that. You don't require that for your native students. Your native students come out of college with all kinds of degrees, believing that Shakespeare was the best. 200,000, 300,000, you know, years of civilization on your planet, and ours was the best. You fucking kidding me? That becomes ours was the best, and believing and knowing ours was the best. Shakespeare and Jesus. It wasn't. We like to think he was white, so we can consider it as ours. In order to claim him, we have to draw him white. Okay, fine. This is the problem. If, for example, if you had required this a couple of 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, if you have required this from your college graduates, I kind of doubt you would have any wars. Anybody in any higher post in our country, beside our own mother tongue and language, has full proficiency in a second language and history and literature. First of all, under such condition, I kind of doubt that Mr. George W. Bush would have graduated. However, I think at least, let's say Mr. George W. Bush would have chosen the language of Vietnamese. In college, he would have chosen, just let's imagine. Imagine Mr. George W. Bush would have chosen as his second chosen language and culture that he has to immerse himself in order to, graduate and get a bachelor's degree in whatever, economy or whatever he got a bachelor's degree in, political science. Let's assume that he, gets his degree and he knows somebody as famous and well read as Shakespeare and adored as Shakespeare. Imagine he would during his college years and having to immerse himself in Vietnamese culture, he would learn of more than a few playwrights and musicians and poets in Vietnamese language. And he had to actually read them in order to pass the test about them. So, if by any chance Mr. George W. would have, under such condition, would have graduated from college, he would know at least one guy besides Shakespeare. So this idea of exceptionalism would never, ever occur to him, occur to any graduate of any higher learning centers in the West. The idea of exceptionalism would not even occur. Tell me John Bolton, which apparently Mr. John Bolton has become a favorite of Mr. You know, the guy from Daily Show. See how things have turned upside down. That Daily Show, John Stewart Daily Show, is interested in, not in a sarcastic way, but in an open up way. They're interested in the views of John Bolton. I saw the other day one of their uh, interviewers was interviewing in a very upright manner, interviewing John Bolton. Not to make fun of him, but to say, listen to this man. He has something to say, something important, something right to say. John Bolton never has anything right to say. Tell me John Bolton has has learned a second language, knows the second language very well, and has immersed himself in the culture of a second culture beside his own at any point in his life. Tell me John Bolton beside knows anything about any other race or ethnicity or languages beside his own, the one he was born in. He wasn't. He's not. Show me. I know it. You can tell how you can tell how informed people are, well-rounded people are, by the views they hold. John Bolton is a very colonialist, racist pink-skin who believes that not even pink-skins have that much value, but pink-skin corporation and pink-skin wealth in the long run has value. We have to be on top and wealthier than the rest. That's the views of a graduate of Harvard, I believe, Mr. John Bolton is. Are you kidding me? You put out shit like that and you expect the planet to be safe and reasonable? They're taking the daily show, the left-wing daily show of supposedly peace and love, is interviewing Mr. John Bolton in a serious way. Here's the thing, sir, folks. The only way to solve this and cut back on your wars of choice on your planet, is that these graduates of these colleges and universities, they're being given a degree that has no value, and then they use this degree that they got from this college to buy value for themselves. You get paid, you give them a degree, but you have been giving degrees so easily that many of them haven't learned much, but they have graduated. Now they can use that degree to purchase value for themselves in the marketplace. George W. Bush becomes president because, you know, they say he's a Harvard graduate. Yeah, he was a C student, but he was a Harvard graduate. Okay. He has purchased value for himself. apparently Harvard doesn't have any standard. It just has a bank account, endowment. Yeah. You're graduating people, and these people obtain position because of the degree they have held from your college, but they haven't learned much, especially in terms of other cultures on your planet and other languages on your planet. And then these people join the society, and believe me, it's doable. You see, the foreign students who graduate from universities, most of the time when they arrive, they're not that proficient in English, or if they are a little proficient in English, they had they had they had to study their ass off back home to pass the test, English proficiency test, before they can join their universities. You don't have such thing for your students. One solution is, as an entrance exam to your colleges, you have to have a foreign language proficiency test, just like the same thing that the foreigners pass. You could leave the choice to the students to find out which foreign language they want to pass a test, but they have to pass a test in at least one foreign language if they want to enter the university. Make it the same for foreign students. It's the same for your foreign student. They have to pass an English proficiency test. Your people should have to pass a foreign language proficiency test. So hopefully they pass this foreign language proficiency test, and in college, then they have to become proficient in the culture of the language that they have chosen, which probably would come easier. It's an easier task, and becoming proficient in language is much harder than becoming proficient in the culture. Becoming proficient in culture is a lot easier and a lot more fun. But you have to have that. So Mr. George W. Bush would have been, let's say, he would have chosen Spanish as his language. Would have been had to pass a very strenuous Spanish test, as the SAT or whatever they call it, to enter into college. So his Spanish proficiency would have had to be 90%. Then in college, he has to become proficient in the culture of one of the Spanish-speaking countries. That puts him in a position that he wouldn't. The idea of exceptionalism, it wouldn't even occur to him, or to Mr. Mike Pompeo, or to the Israelis. This idea of exceptionalism, or to the Ukrainians. This idea of exceptionalism, or to the fucking British. This idea of exceptional, you have colonialist powers are always those who are very ignorant and they feel very exceptional. They're good at tool making, they make good weapons, but unfortunately they're very ignorant in other fields, so they feel very exceptional. We make very good weapons, but we don't require knowledge of other cultures and languages, so we feel very exceptional often. We often feel exceptional because we only know of Shakespeare, because we only know of English. And unfortunately, the few who do speak French or German in the Uncle Sam's management apparatus. In this apparatus, I'm not sure how they pronounce it. In this system, there are very few in the government, in the bureaucracy, and in the few who do speak only either few speak German, more numbers speak French, and a bigger number speak Spanish. That's it. These are three European countries who are part of the uh, invasion of Americas and taking it over from the Redskin. These were colonial powers. So you're learning, you know the language of one colonial power, which is England, you know English. Then you learn the language of another colonial power, which is, you know, France or Germany or Spain or England. I don't think that that's a good idea. Now you know the language of two colonial powers. It you see what I'm trying to say is that if and surprise surprise, you know, in North America, the Uncle Sam's managers feel only obligated to form a military union with the same Spain, France, Germany, and England. With these ex-colonialists, they form a union, they military union, and they start, you know, colonializing, trying to colonialize, colonize the rest of the planet again. I mean, imagine if, you know, 1/10 of the people at the upper echelons of Uncle Sam's system management had would be speaking Chinese, 1/10 would be speaking Malaysian, 1/10 would be speaking Arabic, 1/10 would be speaking Spanish, 1/10 would be speaking Swahili, 1/10 would be speaking, I don't know. Imagine if the government was like that, just by chance, not by force, because everybody had to have a second language. And you know, uh, you would be you would be encouraged not to pick your second language, French, Spanish, or German. You would be encouraged to pick your second language as one of the, you know, other than these three. A little farther, maybe Hungarian, maybe Russian. Your second language, maybe Russian, maybe Hungarian, maybe Turkish, maybe Persian, maybe Arabic, maybe, you know, maybe Vietnamese. You would be encouraged to, you know, not pick one of these ex-colonialists. Pick a farther down the road, go farther around the globe, and pick that language and try to, you know, become proficient in that language. And in order to college, you have to become proficient in that language. Then in college, you should be expected to immerse yourself in the culture of. Do you see how much more understanding there would be, how much less aggressive military-ish the system would be? How many top generals in the United States military speak his second language and have had a very immersive experience in a different culture for their rank or for their degree? They should. They should. It should be a requirement of the job, requirement of social status, requirement of money. You gotta know at least about the one different cultural language. You know how much more how much less you feel exceptional if they require that? Because believe me, every culture has a Shakespeare. Every culture. It if you don't know that because you haven't been required to know. If you have had been required to know, you would have not felt so exceptional. You wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't have an orgasm every time somebody says Shakespeare. And all these words are, it's clear. It's a case of lack of trust. Well, the first thing you should do to build trust, to find trust, is to try to understand each other. And to do that, you have to have a language people, you know, at, at least a tenth of your population on the whole country. A tenth of your population should be very, you know, should speak that language. A fifth, whatever. Yet large portion of your population, if they speak that language and know that culture, that's a good idea. Because for one thing, colonialism will not repeat. You see all these, a lot of people from South Asia, ex-British colonies who are British. Basically, they're living in England. They're British, and they're proud of it. So, you know, a lot of these people are, it's not dual loyalty that they have. It's a dual understanding that they have. They also know that their land also has Shakespeare, has had Shakespeare, and they care for its future Shakespeares. So they don't want to see a destruction and killing of their potential Shakespeares in their own land. So it's not dual loyalty that they have, it's a dual understanding that they have. I think this is the part that Mr. Tucker Carlson, doesn't. They don't have, if they have full immersion in the other culture, they don't have dual loyalty, they will have dual understanding. But the problem is the only one that has dual understanding is allowed to have dual understanding is the ex-soldier from Israel. That's you know that's not understanding. That's that's a threat. That's not understanding. But do you have a large portion of the same Senate or the same House of Representatives who speak Arabic and are immersed in Arabic culture? You have right now you have like one or two, and even apparently those are too much for the House, and they are always fingered to at finger that to demonize. So I think they are the ones that is it. All your senators should speak a second language, like Ilhan Omar does. They could be white, but they could also be speaking Vietnamese, have a second language as Chinese, as Vietnamese, as Russian, as Portuguese, as Spanish, as you see what I'm saying? Not Spanish. Again, back to no Spain, no France, and no Germany, but other languages. You gotta have all your representatives should speak. It's not a question of loyalty. Okay, your loyalty is to the stars and stripes. It's a question of understanding. It's a question of no, 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 no. They also have Shakespeare. They also have, you know, they have a culture, and they have the right to have their culture, and whatever is it that we misunderstand. It's our problem because we don't understand that culture because we don't live in that culture. That's the only way. The only way to create that kind of environment is force it. Eh, you know, you want to enter college, you gotta be proficient at least in one other language. And no, we don't accept French, German, or Spanish. You gotta be something else. Even Italian, better. Very, very few people study Italian. It's something beside German, French, and Spanish. A lot of these problems that have arisen wouldn't arise. These are all problems of ignorance. Exceptionalism is absolute ignorance. The whole idea comes from ignorance. So you sell them these degrees from these higher education centers, you sell them these degrees, or because they're alumni, you you charge them, but you take it easy. You get more money if you have to take it easy. You get paid more. And then people come out of these higher learning centers, they buy respect with those papers, with those diplomas. They buy respect. Obviously, the diploma shouldn't have been issued. This gentleman was not respectable, but apparently these higher education centers are just printing out diplomas and just increasing their endowment. And then, you know, they just compete with each other over which celebrity we can come bring to speak for us in our university at graduation. Of graduation of whom? People who barely speak their mother tongue. Forget about people who speak a second language and know a second culture proficiently. Forget about that. People who can't speak their mother tongue are graduates of, and as I said, just speaking the mother tongue is not enough, because that's the point of ignorance. You think you're the shit. Shakespeare. It's not enough. One language, one culture is not enough. That it emphasizes what you as creatures on this planet are already good at, and that is, being considering yourself as the center of the universe. It emphasizes that. It's not a good idea if you want to have a peaceful planet. In order to have a peaceful planet, you have to balance your innate concept, innate force, innate feeling of being the center of the universe and wanting to be a center of the universe in order to survive. In order to balance that, you need to learn of others. That's the only way to try to salvage some kind of peace out of this shithole.